president's trade deal with the EU puts a 15% tariff on imported medicines from Europe. How do you stop the drug makers from passing along those costs to people on Medicare and Medicaid? I want to start on drug costs. The president put this 25% tariff on India, big drug producer. The president's trade deal with the EU puts a 15% tariff on imported medicines from Europe. How do you stop the drug makers from passing along those costs to people on Medicare and Medicaid?
Well, the president's letter on Thursday for most favored nation pricing is a good example of that. And he's been working on this tirelessly since the first administration. And just to put this in context for many of the viewers, about 2/3 of bankruptcies in America are caused by healthcare expenses. About 1/3 of people, when they go to the pharmacy, they leave empty-handed. They can't afford the medication. So the president has said, enough global freeloading. We've been covering much of the development costs for new drugs to cure cancer, deal with lots of other illnesses that are life-threatening. It isn't time for the American public to understand that we should not be paying 3 times more for the exact same medication in the same box, made in the same factory. So the president's saying, equalize it out. Let's use a model that's worked, for example, for external threats. That's what NATO did. Everyone has to pay a little more. We'll pay extra too, but we won't pay a lot more than everybody else. So they actually have to raise their contributions, in this case to an internal threat, which is illness. We'll pay a little less in America. That way more Americans can afford these medications, and it's a fair system for the entire globe.
Is that intended to offset what will be, cuts to Medicaid? And do you know, if the companies are actually going to follow through on this? Like, how do you actually strong arm them into doing it?
Well, just get the numbers correct. We're putting $200 billion more into Medicaid. So we're actually investing in Medicaid.
Costs are going up.
Costs are going up, but there's been a 50% increase in the cost of Medicaid over the last 5 years. So I'm trying to save this beautiful program, this noble effort to help folks, giving them a hand up. And as you probably gather, if Medicaid isn't able to take care of the people for whom it was designed, the young children, the dawn of their life, those at the twilight of their life, the seniors, and those who are disabled, living in the shadows, as Hubert Humphrey said, then we're not satisfying the fundamental obligation of a moral government. And this president has said over and over that he believes that it is the wise thing and the noble thing to help those who are vulnerable. And every great society does that. We're going to as well.
Just wow. This clip hits one of the biggest elephants in the room when it comes to healthcare. Americans are paying the highest drug prices in the world, while other countries get the same pills for pennies in comparison. And it's not speculation. It is proven. A 2021 R&D corporate study found out that prescription drug prices in the US are 2.56 times higher than in 32 other countries. For brand name drugs, the number jumps to 3.44 even, so even higher. And same pill, same box, as well as same factory, same production. Triple the cost if you're American, and no surprise, 2/3 of bankruptcies in this country are linked to medical bills. And that is why the NATO analogy is spot on. Just like America has carried the burden for global defense, we've also carried the burden for pharmaceutical development. Other countries put price caps on medicine, and drug makers shrug, saying that's fine, we'll just make it up in America. Instead, it's global freeloading, and it leaves US families drowning in medical debt. And here's the hard truth. Tariffs and trade deals alone won't fix this unless Big Pharma is actually forced to eat some of those costs themselves. And history shows they always look for loopholes. Remember the medical part deal in 2003, for example. It literally banned the government from negotiating lower drug prices. And that's not a free market. That's a market rigged in favor of the pharmaceutical giants. That is why the moral side of this issue also matters. Hubert Humphrey once said that the test of government is how it treats children, elderly people, and the vulnerable. And right now, Medicaid spending is up more than 50% in just 5 years, and yet still millions of Americans walk out of pharmacy empty-handed because they just can't afford life-saving prescriptions. And if the program can't take care of kids, seniors, and the ones who truly need this support, it is failing its purpose. And this isn't just about numbers, it's far more. It's about values. And the question is, are we going to keep letting drug companies dictate the rules while Americans pay 3 times more than the rest of the world? Or are we going to finally demand a fair system where life-saving medicine isn't treated like a luxury item? You don't have to love tariffs, and you also don't have to love administration at all, but you can't deny the math behind it. The US is carrying the world's drug cost, and it's crushing ordinary people like bugs. And that's not sustainable economically or morally as well.